Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of CroomTalk. Today we have a very special episode, a super last minute episode. We are in the house of the legendary Eric Wood. How you doing?
I'm great, brother. Thanks for stopping by the Ville on your way down to Nashville. You get to go see Luke Combs in a couple days. We get to see Nate Bargatze down there as well. But hey, I appreciate you coming by.
Thanks for having, man. Beautiful home.
Thank you.
Like I said, as soon as I turned the corner, I was like, "Where the hell am I?"
Hey, we do it all right here in Louisville. It's a kind of an under the radar town. But super nice. We got Kentucky Derby coming up in a few weeks. That's when this town will start rocking. It'll be like the Super Bowl here. It'll be parties, it's concerts. It feels like a Super Bowl weekend, only there's not two competing teams.
Yeah.
So it's a different element to where everybody's there to have a good time. Actually got Brandon Bean and his wife coming. Sean
Okay.
McDermott and Jamie were going to come down as well. They can't make it, but old Bean's coming down. Josh Reed and his wife Elizabeth are coming down. So we love to bring the Buffalo people down for the Derby.
That's at Churchill Downs, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just scrolling on the GPS as we're going through. I'm like, I feel like we should just go by and just look at it.
It'd be worth your time.
Yeah.
You're actually going to be – it'll be convenient when you leave here heading towards Nashville if you want to stop by.
Yeah. That'd be cool, man. So you're from Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
So obviously you played college in Louisville. Is that what kind of tied you into living here?
Yeah, for sure. And, I got one scholarship offer to college, so it made it super easy
Yeah.
to make the decision to come here. When I first got in the NFL, I asked somebody, I said, what gets most of the guys out of the NFL? And then also, what causes those guys to hit that sophomore slump? Because I came in as a first rounder, did the Joe Theismann leg break my rookie year, but I didn't want to have that sophomore slump. So I asked somebody and they said, people forget what got them to the NFL. And so for me, I said, okay, well, what got me to the NFL was training with the college guys. And so in the offseason, I would come back here and train in literally the college workout groups, just like I was a college kid, go back to the workout groups. And so that's what always kept us here in the offseason. My wife's from here. My family's close by in Cincinnati. It just made a lot of sense to make this home.
Was that like a motivational thing, like to work out with kids like that?
It was, and it also keeps you young.
Yeah.
Like my wife would be like, "How do you know these hip hop songs?
Yeah.
Like you're like you listen to country in the car, but you know every hip hop song." I'm like, "Yeah, I stay hip because I'm training with 23-year-olds and just the relationships you build over the years. For me to be able to then give back and give some lessons, give some aspirations, some hope to some young cats too. Like I remember when Mekhi Becton, who went number 11 overall to the Jets, I remember working out with him his first day on campus at U of L. He was so discouraged. He couldn't back squat 135 pounds just based upon like core stability, and he had never lifted weights in his life. And I was like, bro, you're big, you can bend, and you're naturally strong. You're just not strong under a bar. Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't long before he was squatting 405. They just had to build him up, but it was fun building those relationships.
Yeah. So from Louisville straight to the 716.
Yep.
So what was that journey like? I mean, I feel like you're very connected with Buffalo. I feel like as everybody is who kind of embraces that city. But what does Buffalo mean to you?
Buffalo means a lot, and for me, to be a first-round draft pick was a main goal of mine. Once I saw Nick Mangold, my sophomore year of college, go in the first round, I said, shoot, centers can go in the first round. I didn't even think centers could go in the first round. So when I saw Mangold go in the first round, that became my goal, and Buffalo made my dreams come true. The organization treated me just remarkably from day one. It started out, it was Russ Brandon, Dick Duran's the coach. We had such an incredible group of guys on the team, and that group treated me so well. And then we have a transition in ownership. So we had multiple different GMs, coaches, whoever it may be. I mean, I played for 7 head coaches in 9 years. I believe that's an NFL record. But the organization treated me incredible. And since day one, the city just was open arms to me. Mm-hmm. I remember when I first got to the Bills, I made some type of young, dumb comment like, the best thing about football is you can do things that are illegal in public on a football field and not get in trouble for it. Like you can go rough somebody up, and I love that about football. I still did love that about football, but at 23 years old, that felt like an appropriate thing to say to like kind of get the fan base going, and they loved it.
And that's one fan base you can definitely get on your
side
no
very
doubt. Easily.
And for me, I'm from the west side of Cincinnati. It's a very blue-collar, kind of Catholic, tucked into that west side of Cincinnati, right between Ohio and Indiana on the northern side of the border of Kentucky. That area reminded me so much of the area of Orchard Park, Blaisdell, Hamburg that I lived in. So I was just comfortable there. Like since day one, I was comfortable. I never once hit free agency. Luckily, they came to me with early extensions twice. But for me, there was no other place than Buffalo. And when I got there, we hadn't made the playoffs for 8 or 9 years. Well, I come in as a first rounder. So my goal then becomes not single-handedly, but how am I a leader of the organization? What can I do to impact this organization to get to the playoffs? Well, I can't leave before that. If I left and then the Bills made the playoffs, I would have been distraught. I could never have lived with myself watching those. If I wasn't in that locker room celebrating in 2017 with those guys in Miami, I would have never forgave myself. All of the losing, I don't want to say all the losing was worth it for that moment, but man, it sure felt like it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you could speak from like a fan's perspective too, because like that was my first. I mean, because I'm 28, and like Super Bowl years were kind of like not necessarily like for me. So like that was like the first embracement I got to like So like as you guys were celebrating in the locker room in Miami, I'm celebrating at home like the same way you guys are. Obviously, you guys are putting the work in, but like you can just understand like that value of a moment and how much it meant to everybody.
Yeah. So I grew up a Bengals fan. They went, I believe, 18 years of a playoff drought. While I'm a fan of the team, then I get drafted to the Bills. Then the Bengals make the playoffs 7 straight years, and I'm playing for the Bills in the longest playoff drought. So I understood what a city felt like. I was a fan of an organization that I was playing for now. And so what the fans were going through, rooting on this team of guys that were grinding out there, there was never a team that I went into the season saying like, well, this isn't the team that's going to break it. I always felt like this was going to be the team to break it because everybody cared and everyone was bought in. We just didn't get over the hump. Some years it was injuries, some year, just lack of talent on the field, whatever it may be. We just didn't get over the mark. But I grew up rooting for a team like that and being loyal to a team like that. So I truly appreciated the fans in those times.
So coming in the NFL, obviously being a Bengals fan, where do you have to cut that off?
So when you get in the NFL, you learn pretty quickly, especially if you stay there long enough, that you end up being a fan of the organization that's loyal to you. So for me, it's the Bills. Like I'm only a Bills fan. I'm from Cincinnati. It's good for Cincinnati business, and I want my friends and family to be happy. But when the Bengals win, that affects the Bills. It affects our playoff seeding. It affects our Super Bowl chances. When they sign free agents in the offseason and they're all excited, like deep down, I just see that as being contrasting to my Bills, being against my Bills. And so I root for coaches that I've known along the way or I'm buddies with, players that I played with or I'm friends with. Like that's who I root for. Yeah. And I want them to have tremendous on-field success. And it's very easy when they play in the NFC. Like when Ryan Fitzpatrick moved on for the Bills, it was so easy when he went to Tampa to truly support him. Yeah. But when he's in Miami, when he's in New York, when he's in Houston, when he's in Tennessee, like, yes, I want Fitzy to throw for over 300 a game, but every time he wins, that affects the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good perspective, because a lot of people, you almost feel like, imagine like you're playing the Bengals, you're like, damn, this is my team. Like how quick do you shut that out?
I got a quick story for you. So we're playing in Cincinnati. I believe it's 2011. And we're running out of the tunnel. I hate tight spaces. Those tunnels are cramped. We're hot. It's an early season game against the Bengals. I have like 50 to 100 people in the stadium. Those were always the most expensive games for me because as a player, especially for the away games, we get 0 free tickets. We're honestly most of the time paying more than you would than you would pay on Ticketmaster. So I have a bunch of people in the stands. And I'm at the front of the tunnel because I just want to get out of there and get out on the field, start my warm-up, and get the game going. So I run out of the tunnel. I'm the very first one out, and not because I'm the leader of the team, just I'm ready to get out of the tunnel. Well, I run to the Bengals sideline by accident. And really, I don't know if I saw like one of our ball boys who would then be on their sideline because the balls are going to come in from both sides. So we have guys in Bills gear on their sideline. I don't know what happened, but I ran to the wrong sideline, and Ryan Fitzpatrick to this day will never let me forget that moment that I ran to the Cincinnati sideline. He's like, you're so used to rooting for the Bengals your whole life that you ran to their sideline, which wasn't true. But that was probably my most embarrassing moment of my career.
Yeah, that's funny. So was that your first game against them as well?
I believe so.
A home game?
I believe so.
That's a funny whoopsie there. In that moment, are you just like, let me just act like I didn't do this? Or were you just like, damn,
I got really close to their sideline and just veered off and ran across the field to a bunch of laughing teammates.
Yeah. Oh, they probably set you up too.
They let me have it pretty good.
So going back a little bit, you break your leg. obviously like the weight on your shoulders for being like a first round draft pick is already immense, and then trying to like perform at such a high level and then having that happen, like where's your head at?
I'll say this. One of my biggest regrets from the first 6 years of my career is not fully enjoying the moment, because there is some pressure of being a first round draft pick, but even just being in the NFL and being the only one in my family that plays professional sports, and out of all my buddies, I'm the only one playing. And so there's a certain amount of pressure on that, but I put a lot of pressure just on myself to perform. And I had never been hurt in my life heading in to the NFL. I started 49 straight games in college, never missed a start. Get to the NFL and break my leg in half my rookie year. My second year, I do an MCL tear. My third year, I do ACL. My fourth year, my second year, I did a high ankle sprain. My fourth year, I did an MCL. I missed games in all 4 seasons to start my career, and I just put so much pressure on myself to not get hurt again, probably to where I'm speaking it into existence because I'm so worried about getting hurt out there, because we always say, as an offensive lineman especially, your best ability is availability. You got to be on the field. And so for me, I felt like I was letting the team down, the organization down. Then I signed a contract extension and start 52 straight games in a row, which was the most for any active center in the NFL. So I hit a lucky streak, I'll say, just where I wasn't getting fallen on. There wasn't people crashing into my legs. But my mindset for a while was never enjoying the moment, never enjoying the fruits of my labor, never appreciating the fact that, man, I worked so hard to be a first-round draft pick. I got a contract with the Bills to stick around when so many others didn't. It was simply focused on, I feel like I'm letting everyone down because I'm hurt all the time, and I'm not out there with the guys.
Yeah. And then you had a phenomenal career.
I appreciate it.
And then you know, all the work finally added up to 2017, to where we finally made that transition into the playoffs. And, you know, that was a huge thing for the team as well as yourself. And then, you know, the playoffs don't go as planned. And then the end of that year, you know, things hit the fan for you. So, like, do you feel like that moment, like, obviously in that moment, like, you had to make such a decision, and you made it pretty quick.
Well, it wasn't my decision. That's
Yes.
what made it easiest. And so, just backing up, everyone thought we were tanking heading into that season. We had just traded away our top 3 draft picks from the 3 previous drafts. 2 first-rounders, and then we only had 1 first-rounder 1 year. Or we didn't have a first-rounder 1 year. We took Ronald Darby with the second pick. We traded away Sammy, Marcel, and Darby, and everyone just assumes we're tanking.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that signs a contract extension. We're in.
That was in the preseason.
We're in the preseason.
I was at that game.
So we're in the preseason. We're at Baltimore. And that was our 3rd preseason game. And we had been negotiating a contract extension for a while. There's a lot of money on the table, you know, whether it's, 2017 or even now, just a lot of money on the table. That's when the starters are going to play the most. So I was likely not going to play in that game without a new contract. It wasn't I would have started a regular season game, but I didn't want to risk getting hurt in a preseason game and then miss out on, generational wealth for my family. And so I end up signing a contract in pads in Sean McDermott's office before the preseason game. And then that season, Sean McDermott keeps telling us, we either win or we learn. And as long as we learn, instead of just lose and tank, we will get better and we will make the playoffs. And I believed him. I don't know if everyone else believed him, but I did believe him. I'm a blind optimist at times. Kyle Williams used to make fun of me all the time because, we'd be in the hunt at the end of the year. I'm like, dude, we got a shot. And he's like, not much. If you look at the percentages, we don't have much of a shot. But that being said, we went on a special run. That is a team that had the worst 3-game stretch in team history, point differential-wise. The Nate Peterman start, which everyone remembers, we got smashed by the Saints. And then I believe Thursday Night Football was mixed in there as well. And so we have the worst 3-game stretch in team history. There's been a lot of bad years for the Bills. That's the worst. And then we rebound from that, go on a little bit of a run and make the playoffs, break the playoff drought. So many special memories from that. And so I got to race back to Louisville to see the birth of my son. I'm the only player on the team that played 100% of the snaps that year. And I found out in our exit physical that I need to get MRI on my neck, which is fine. MRIs, x-rays, that's pretty common after the season. Even if there's nothing going on, they just want to make sure. So they're getting ready to clear me for the Pro Bowl. I'm driving back to Louisville right after the MRI, get the news in the delivery room that my career is over. I have disc and bones sitting into my spinal cord at C2, C3. And if I keep playing football, I'm risking paraplegia, loss of respiratory function. And even with surgery, I can't return. No doctor, no team trainer will ever pass me for a physical again. And I don't fault you for this, Joe, but even the way you phrased it, you made the right decision, because that's how it was portrayed in the media, that I was making a decision to walk away from the game. It wasn't my decision. If it was my decision, I would have got another surgery. I would have got the neck surgery. I would have played another down. I would have been on this path that Mike is on right now. I would have done anything I could to get back on the field. The decision was made for me, which in hindsight, there's been so many blessings that have come from that. You know, the experiences I've been able to have off the field, the time I've spent with my family. I would have played till the wheels completely fell off. I would have been broken. To be able to play, which I was extended to be the center for the next quarterback that came in, that would have been Josh. And so how would I walk away now? With Super Bowl aspirations every single year, when would it be time to walk away? And let's say they get one this year. Well, then let's run it back and get it again, because you're going to have the most fun of your life. So God pulled me out of the NFL when he wanted me to. It wasn't my plan. It wasn't my timing, but he pulled me out when he wanted to. And that was not easy. That's not easy to accept. At times, it's still not easy to accept. I'm a man of faith, and it's still at times I'm like, you know, I get ready to call the game, and it's truly a blessing that I get to call games with Murph or Chris Brown to finish the year and Sal. Like, I love calling the Bills games. I've loved my role within the organization. But there's times where I'm like, it would be really awesome to be out there right now.
Do you think it makes it harder to, like, obviously not necessarily accept that because you're still kind of involved? Do you feel like, you know, obviously, like, let's say you didn't go that route to be, like, commentating games, to where you went in a different career path and then you were just kind of watching from a distance. Do you feel like you'd be able to accept knowing that, my career was over and it is what it is?
I think it's very healthy for me to be around the game. Because I loved football. Not all, enough NFL players, Joe. Not all NFL players love football. Like, I was the guy who watched Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, even if it wasn't a divisional opponent or opponent coming up. I like football. I love football. And so for me to still be around the game is healthy for me. I also didn't get to choose when my career was over, so this allows me to still stay around the game. I feel a lot better on Mondays than I used to. And I make a lot less money because of it, but that's okay. But for me to be around the organization, to still have those conversations, generally before every single game, during warm-ups, I'll have a conversation with Terry Pagula, and we didn't have it one time. It was 2 or 3 years ago, playing the Eagles at home. It was a rainy day. I didn't go on the field because it was pouring down rain. I didn't know anyone that I needed to necessarily go say hi to player-wise that I couldn't catch after the game, like Kelsey and those guys for the Eagles. So I stayed up in the booth. We ended up getting smoked, and Terry came up to me after the game and said, "Eric, we didn't speak before the game. Let's not let that happen again." I said, "Yes, sir." And so I make sure I'm available before each and every game. People probably think I'm trying to hop in pictures with Terry every week, because generally when you see a picture of Terry, I'm very close by, like a little puppy dog. But you appease your boss when he says we're going to have a conversation before most games. And then I'll generally catch up with Bean and McDermott. And for me, it's honestly just good for my soul. It's good for my family as well, because it keeps us in the rhythm that we are used to. And that's, yes, the football season's a grind, and it's a little bit more work and it's more travel, but then there's an off season. So it kind of keeps us in a rhythm as well.
Yeah. So, like, that process, at what point were you just like, okay with it?
That's a great question. And I don't know the exact time that I was okay with it. I probably would have told you sooner than it was that I was okay with it. The way it worked when my career ended, the Bills could not cut me because they didn't have the cap room to. As soon as they cut me, my injury guarantee would hit and the Bills would be over the salary cap. So they waited till the very last day, May 31st, to cut me, the very last day before the new league year, to cut me. Well, during that time, all I was told from the NFLPA was, "Man, you're losing a lot of weight. It sure looks like you're retiring and not injured. Hey, don't be getting another job. Don't try and get like a media job, because then you're retiring. You're not injured." And I'm not. And they were being very careful because there was a lot of money on the table. But during that time, I probably would have told you at some point during that 5 months after my career ended that, hey, I'm fine with it. I have faith in God. I'm surrounded by incredible family and friends, and I was. And I still truly believe that, but I wasn't completely fine with it. I remember going to Jim Kelly's golf tournament right in early June. It was right after the Bills released me. So everything's settled. I got the injury settlement. Now it's anything goes. I can get a job. I can reveal that I've lost some weight, which I was trying to stay off of social media and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Jim's golf tournament and the media storm hit. And I had to answer questions about it for the first time since that press conference that I really couldn't say anything because of how the NFLPA reacted to me even being in Buffalo. And at that point, I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot." It's hard. I don't think I'm. Maybe it's humility, maybe it's ignorance. But to me, like when my career ended, like yes, I know I'm a part of the organization. I played there for 9 seasons. But I didn't know it would be like that big of a deal when I came back up for Jim's golf tournament.
Yeah.
And everyone just swarmed me getting off of a limo bus. I was drinking a beer with one of my buddies on the way out to the course, and I saw all the media lined up, and I said, all right, someone take this. I can't. I don't need a beer for this moment.
Yeah. You have to be so mentally strong. And I feel like, your relationship with God has helped you through that a lot.
It has. And so we brought in Len Vandenbos during that season.
Lenny,
And Len, throughout the season, our chapels had a message based upon the verse in Matthew about having a foundation built on rock. And the storms came, the winds blew, but it couldn't blow down that house because it was built on rock. So each chapel throughout the seasons, we had, including preseason and the playoff game, 21 of those. So we had 21 chapels. Each one included a rock with a message or a verse or a word on it. And little did I know, and it took me a while to even put 2 and 2 together on this, that those chapels were for me. Like I was building a foundation on rock during that season by attending all the chapels, by getting the word poured into me. I was creating a foundation that I didn't know I needed. I had just signed a contract extension. I played every single snap that season. This must be for somebody else. Somebody else's career is going to fall apart. Someone else is going to lose a loved one where they need a foundation on rock. But ultimately, that was for me. And not only for me, for all of us, but it impacted me in a great way to where I didn't hit rock bottom. I didn't turn to drugs and alcohol. I didn't get into a depressed hole where I couldn't climb myself out of. Yes, I would call that rock bottom, but others have hit rock bottom so much worse because they don't have a foundation to fall back on. And ultimately, like I said before, it's faith, it's family, and it's friends that I was able to fall back on. And that's where, even during the great times when life's going so smooth, still building a foundation is so important. I always say, you're either in a storm in life, coming out of one, or heading into one.
Yeah.
One of the 3. Storms in life are coming. Do you have a foundation that that can support you in those storms? That's the key.
It's such a phenomenal perspective.
And honestly, it's faith, but then it's also financial. Storms are going to come. You might not be able to work. You may lose your voice. You get food poisoning like we talked about, and you can't record podcasts. Okay, do you have enough financial stability? Do you have a financial foundation where you can pay your bills that month?
Mm-hmm.
Health-wise, do you have a strong enough health that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor for a long time? There's so many different aspects and so many ways you can look at that state of foundation that can serve you in your life.
I love that. That's such a good way to look at that.
You do a good job with no notes.
Thank you. I was sitting in the car when the sun was coming up, sweating, like figuring them out. I just want something like, my thing is like, obviously you're in a different space. Like, like you're not playing anymore, and you're just, you've been living your life. It's so different now. Like, I mean, I'm just talking to you as a person right now. And the thing is that I can't stand about podcasts or like radio shows is like, everybody just wants to talk about football. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to open up a dynamic where it's different. Like, if, like I say it all the time, if I can give, because my podcast isn't just going to be athletes, but I like to go that route because what I want to do for athletes is humanize them.
Mm-hmm.
Because like people know you as number 70 of the Buffalo Bills who played for us, and like,
right.
But nobody knows about like the trials and tribulations, like, having like going through this and what you did to get through it, and embracing this, and just how life works. And I feel like everybody, like if you go on podcasts or people reach out to you, 90% of the time they want to talk about football. They don't want to talk about Eric Wood, and I can't stand that. And I feel like I just want to open up such a different window to where like we could talk about real shit that people can benefit from. Like,
Yep.
you know, because like I did a podcast where, you know, we ended up dabbling in mental health. And it's like, sure, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but there's people out there who could be in your situation, and what you have to explain based on your situation can help them in so many different ways.
Right.
Like you breaking down, you know, your situation. Like a lot of people have, you know, like, okay, like, you know, sure, you could have went and, you know, started drinking heavily because your life isn't the way it is, but like learning to have a grasp on that, you know, and putting, like, let's see, somebody's listening to this. Like, people could be like, dude, if that happened to me, I don't know what the hell I would do. But then, like, listening to how you broke it down and the things you did to get to that point, people could be like, oh, shit, well, maybe I should maybe
Right.
try something different. So it's like putting people in your shoes, like, without them knowing, like, oh, you're listening to this, like, damn, maybe I'm going through something.
And
Like,
that's the essence of my podcast as well. Like, yes, I love talking sports, but like a majority of it's not necessarily talking sports. It might be talking sports, but I'm really trying to get it relatable of like what made you great? What made your teams
Yeah.
great? Like, how can I work that into a speaking gig or whatever, you know?
yeah. No, and that's huge. Like, you know, because like I think about it too. Like even if I were to reach out to some of the guys like I didn't know, like I'm sure like their thought process of me reaching out to them would be like, oh, like let's say we lost, like, and I'm trying to do a podcast on Tuesday, like, oh, like I'm not trying to go in there and talk about why I missed this tackle or something, because that's what a lot of people do, and unfortunately, like I feel like the reason that not saying I'm good at this, but it's different is because being pretty much behind the scenes, like knowing, getting to know people personally, you have such a different visualization of football,
Right.
and like you learn how important outside of football is to football.
Right.
Like, and I just want to like push that narrative for everybody so people can understand that too, that athletes are humans, not just somebody. Because the way that people look at athletes is they want you to win and play for them, and if you don't win, they don't give a shit about you.
Right.
And I want to like get people, not necessarily make somebody vulnerable, but like once you get to like relate to somebody, it's so much more like, okay, like, oh, Eric Wood's cool, he likes to golf, you know, instead of just being like, oh, Eric just plays football and we lost last week, so I don't really care.
Right.
And I just want to change that so much. So it's like, I literally have a list in my phone of everybody who I want to do on the podcast. And this is like the third one I finally get to check off. But it's just like, I just want to like just keep feeding people information. So it's like people can know who you are behind the scenes. And I just think it's so much different.
Well,
Than just,
I'll say this: you do a good job, but the content that you'll create is expensive. You know what I mean? And I know, you know, let me look at the setup.
Yeah.
But like, and that's time and whatnot, but like being able to show the content you can create and get from it will help you, as opposed to like for mine, we're going to do clips, but like there's only so much you can do through Riverside.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. That's why, like I said, like I'll travel across the United States to do this, because having this conversation face to face is so much more intimate than like a Zoom call, you know, like,
Mhm.
and it's just like, I feel like we're having a conversation. We're not even doing a podcast right now.
Right.
And as opposed to like, if we were doing it like that way, it would feel more podcasty,
Right.
but it's just so different. And I just want to kind of create a space that doesn't necessarily exist and just take it to the top.
Yep.
And I can do that with the help of people like you
Yep.
for sitting down here with me.
Right. I got you, brother.
Obviously, you know, you had to make that transition to after football. And was what you're doing now as commentating what you always wanted to do, or was it something that just kind of fell in your lap?
I've always been into sports. My wife would tell you that I love to talk. So that would be a natural next step. But everyone says they want to get in the media until they realize how much work it is, how much travel it is. And then maybe they don't want to get in there so much. They see people on TV, but then don't understand that all that goes into making that happen. Me being a realist, I understood that when my career ended, I had an opportunity to hop in the media. A bunch of national media members who I was very generous of my time with and tried to treat them with a lot of respect. They reached out to me and said, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. Well, I did let them know because I was ready to hop in because, look, I'm a center from playing all my career in Western New York, and we only played in one playoff game. We only had 2 primetime games outside of the mandatory Thursday night games. And so I understand I'm not a monster name. And so if I'm going to hop in, I better hop in now. And I have enjoyed it. I've called games for Fox and ESPN and ACC Network and CBS. And now I say just doing the Bills gig, but I really enjoy the Bills radio gig. And for me, I committed to 2 years of calling college football games on Saturday and calling Bills games on Sunday. And then I was going to figure out which one I liked more and then stick with that. I didn't need to work 4 to 5 days a week all through the fall to pay my bills per se. But I did want to see what exactly I wanted to do, and I also enjoy the grind. Like I wasn't ready to stop grinding, so doing that for 2 years was healthy for me. Well, I settled on the Bills gig, and I really enjoy it. It's fun being around. It's fun to call the games. I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I feel like I'm getting better as well. So it gives you kind of a weekly challenge, something to get up for each week. It's not running out of a tunnel to 70,000 people. It's not bashing your head against somebody 75 times a game. Yeah. But it keeps you in the game, which is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. So like going back a little bit, if you were to look at everything that's happened, you kind of like touched on it a little bit, but everything happens for a reason. Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah, I'm as a man of faith, I believe that God has a plan for our life, and the obstacles, the adversity is there, as the book of James talks about. It's there to make you mature and complete. Paul writes, or maybe James writes. James writes, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trial of every kind." It's not always fun, and when I often use that in speaking engagement, like, who is joyful truly? Well, you're nuts if you're joyful through true adversity. Yeah. But it's that adversity that ultimately would make you who you need to become, who you should become as a person, as a man. And so, as much as some of that sucked at the end of my career, I'm grateful for the effect and the perspective it's given me now. And the platform it's given me. If my career doesn't end the way it does, maybe I don't get the media gigs. Maybe my podcast doesn't have the same tone it does now because I wasn't affected like I was. Maybe the speaking engagements would be so much different if I didn't have a story where I'm vulnerable with them and I can connect with them and then I can talk to them. And so there's a lot of good that came from it.
Yeah. So playing, and then obviously now, so you have a foundation. And you could still work with that, and you have been. So what is your foundation, and what is it entitled?
Yeah, so it's the Evan Wood Fund. It was started as the Eric Wood Foundation in 2014. Now it's the Evan Wood Fund under Oshai Children's Hospital. And so my little brother, Evan, he passed when he was 11 years old. He was born with severe cerebral palsy. So he never walked on his own. He never talked on his own. He never breathed on his own. But he had a smile that could light up a room. He lived at our house until he was too big. My little brother, who's still alive, Tyler, he's 5'10", 175 pounds. I think Evan, who was in between us, would have been closer to my size. So at some point he had to go to a nursing home because he was too big to be in our home. And he ended up passing when he was 11 years old. But we started the Eric Wood Foundation in 2014. And I want to say we donated about $20,000 total, like bottom line number, donated and felt pretty good about ourselves, but knowing we wanted to build from there. And in 2022, with the generosity of so many people in Western New York, golf tournaments, fundraisers, I can name countless individuals and businesses that have made this possible. But I believe we'll be over 400,000 donated, not raised, donated. I believe last year we were 97% of the money brought in went straight to the families. Acceptable would be 60 to 70% on a national foundation. What the federal government says is acceptable is 60 to 70%. There's going to be expenses. There's going to be employees. Because it's a fund under Oshai, we're able to donate so much more money because we can use their infrastructure that they have in place under their foundation to allow that to happen. So last year, any family that needed financial assistance at the hospital all got it from us for Christmas time. We had a suite for Bills games where kids and their families that generally never leave the hospital can come to a disinfected suite with a healthy waitress or waiter that's a specialty for them so that they're not at any risk going to a Bills game. It's groceries, it's date nights provided for the families. The impact that we've been able to have is very special, and it's amazing that it continues to grow even though I'm not playing anymore. That just shows you the loyalty of Western New York, that it's and the generosity that it's not even necessarily about the current Bills players. I'm the radio guy now. Yeah. And it continues to grow year after year. Like part of that is people understand that we're stewarding their money well. People like donating, and where they know where the money's going and they know it's being stewarded well. And then also the relationships that we've created over the years and maintained.
That's incredible. That's gotta feel so good from knowing where you started to just be where you are.
Yeah, and that's I did a talk today for State Farm, and the main message was just simply stacking wins in your life. Small wins will add up to big success in your life. And when I look back at the foundation, for example, it was just year after year cultivating more relationships, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what kind of events work in Buffalo. We're going to be doing it during the fall on a weeknight. Okay, what works best? Is it a dinner? Is it a party? Is it a cocktail hour? Is it an auction? Is it less auction items that produce more money? What's the secret sauce? What are the relationships? What golf tournaments do we need to show up? What do we need to do to build it? And it's just a bunch of small wins that have allowed us to be extremely generous now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've watched you build those relationships over the years, whether it's from your roast or the 500 Pro gigs and stuff like that. So nothing will beat the roast, though. That was a very interesting time.
The roast was awesome. And I wish I would have known how awesome it was going to be, because we did it downtown. What's that, Canal Side?
It was Riverworks.
Riverworks. So we do it at Riverworks, and it's high ceilings, great energy. The year before for Fred Jackson, it was in a ballroom with like 8-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was hilarious, but it was just way different. For mine, it was 600 people down at Riverworks, and it was this beautiful venue, tons of energy.
Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible. I wish I would have brought totally a regret of mine now that we didn't bring more people up for that, like from Louisville, from Cincinnati, so that they could experience that night. I mean, I cried laughing for hours that night. I mean, some of the stuff people said was just
I
hysterical.
didn't expect people to be so unfiltered. Like, listen, like I don't know if you remember, but the thing that because Sal was just the speaker, right? He wasn't obviously talking about you, was he? He
was like an MC.
Yeah, I just remember, especially Sal, because Sal's super professional. And I just remember him going on stage, and he just said, so, I don't want to swear on this, but he was saying something about Dion, and he's like, oh, I finally heard Dion Dawkins talk without stirring the effing mac and cheese or something. Remember he had that thing? And I was just like, whoa, this is what we're doing today. And then it was funny too. So I actually wrote one of the jokes for Dion for you because he was clueless.
That's funny. Yeah, Dion, generally they don't have active guys that will come to those things.
Yeah.
But Dion, like a little brother to me. So I was glad Dion accepted the invitation to come. He's such a cool kid.
Yeah, and then you guys were talking about how much weight you can gain on Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
You and Freddie were. And then you guys would send each other pictures of the aftermath.
Yeah, that was more training camp. We would send the dump pics around because during training camp, you're looking for anything for just some entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, you're just quarantined in St. John Fisher. So I would provide the entertainment. We would do the weight gain competition. And I saw that O-line masterminds group the other day. I saw them bragging because one of their guys gained 10 pounds at Fogo de Chao one day. I'm like, come to a Thanksgiving at the Wood household. That doesn't even win you Thanksgiving amongst normal citizens nowadays. You got to step it up. Now there may be a few beverages mixed in that they probably weren't in this combine draft training process, but 10 pounds is solid. But it's not. That's not a bread. You're not going to walk home with the money.
Yeah, that's not even a participation trophy here in the Wood house.
No. I mean, I did it last year. Just on my own, I think I gained 12 pounds.
Yeah.
But there's some gamesmanship to it. It's, you got to watch your water intake.
Is it the longevity or is it just a full go?
There's some longevity in it, but the key is the weigh in. Like, you want to be fairly dehydrated.
Oh, so it's science.
Yeah. You want to not have eaten, fairly dehydrated, so that, because when we were playing in the NFL, I might lose 7 pounds during a practice of water, especially in the wintertime. We're practicing indoors in the heat. Like, I'm sweating hard.
Yeah.
So I might be down 7 pounds. Well, before I then rehydrate, I'll hop on the scale. Yeah. So people would be like, oh my gosh, you gained 12 pounds in a Thanksgiving meal. I'm like, well, I rehydrated. So there's 7 of the 12. And then, I ate a bunch of food too.
Yeah. I want to participate this year.
Let's go.
But I only eat, but it might be easier for me because I'm not like a big turkey guy, but I'll eat an obnoxious amount of mashed potatoes and corn.
Yeah, I'm a big sides guy. Like, turkey to me is all right, but I was talking to a buddy recently. It was like, I'm done. He was saying, I'm done appeasing people on Thanksgiving. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care that you cooked a turkey and I don't want to eat your green beans. I'm here for the mac and cheese, the corn pudding, the mashed potatoes. Like, I'm here for the good stuff. I'm going to crush desserts.
Yeah.
I might knock down some appetizers, but like, I'm not just going to eat turkey and green beans because I want the host to feel good
Yeah.
about his turkey. I've had really good turkey. It's generally deep fried or smoked.
Deep fried's probably the only good turkey.
Smoked is good if you inject it, but then you're making it a lot less healthy. You're injecting with a butter marinade and all that. But you can do it that way. But like the old school, like put a turkey in the oven, it's coming out dry. It's like it's kind of just a waste of space in there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then you got the tryptophan. Nobody wants to be tired.
Exactly. It's going to knock you out.
So after football, have you always played golf?
I started when I was a kid, not competitively, but I played as a kid, and then I didn't play at all in high school and college. When I was growing up, you could play public course on the west side of Cincinnati for $5 if you had the YGA card. So I played fairly often as a kid, and then in high school and college, I didn't play at all. I didn't have clubs that fit me. It was expensive. I didn't have any money. I didn't play at all. And then when I got in the NFL, I broke my leg my rookie year. Well, our second year was the lockout. And so I had a lot more free time on my hands because I'm not commuting back and forth Buffalo and Louisville. I'm just training. We don't even have OTAs. And so I picked the sticks back up and couldn't believe that I was a 20 handicap. Like I felt like as a 12-year-old, I could have beat myself when I picked the sticks back up. I was also 150 pounds heavier. And so that plays a role as well. But I've always been into golf. I'm honestly, Joe, I'm addicted to competing. I still am. Like I play pickleball in the mornings. I love to play golf. Like I'll compete at anything. Golf and pickleball right now are like the things that's like I'm allowed to do. I'm not as like I love to play basketball, but I feel like all my buddies that play basketball at my age get hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get hurt because I don't want to ruin golf season.
Oh, of course.
But like I love everything about golf. Like I love being outdoors. I love hanging out with my buddies. You have a few beers. You're competing. It's something that you constantly have to try to get better at. And you don't just get better at it. Like it takes work.
You have to grind.
Yes. And I love that about golf.
Yeah. So you went through such a weight transition too during your golf journey too. So what was like that difference? I feel like you have to change up something because I talked to you about it before because I just lost 35 pounds to come to Nashville to play golf. Yeah. So it's like I haven't swung a golf club since I was 30 pounds ago. So it's like, my balls go left now instead of right.
I was just going to say, you're going to be a little bit more fluid, get a little bit more turn, which is good. But if you're not used to it, then it's going to be an adjustment period. But in the long run, the weight loss will definitely help. There's a reason that on tour, the guys look like Justin Thomas and everyone, and you can smash a golf ball. I've seen it on Instagram. But everyone always is like, oh, you're a big dude. You can smash a golf ball. I'm like, yeah, it's not quite just about being big. I know a bunch of big muscle-bound dudes that can't hit a golf ball for anything. Yeah. It's about how quick you can be, what your fast-twitch muscles are doing. So being lighter and leaner generally helps in those.
Yeah. So what's your handicap now?
I am an 8 right now. I went from a 4 to an 8 this winter. I played a ton of golf down in Florida, and I'm a member at Medalist down there. And the tees we play at Medalist is rated about the exact same as my country club in Louisville. And if in Louisville I'm trying to shoot in the mid to high 70s, down there, if I shoot in the low 80s, that's great. And I played enough rounds that I'm an 8 handicap right now. And I can't believe it. My pride hurts for me to even say it, but I'm an honest man. Yeah. But I am in prime shape for tournament season on an 8 handicap. And we'll see how low I can get from there.
You're going to have to come to my tournament.
I would love to. You already sent me the dates, and I'm going to try and make it work.
Because I can use the 8 handicap.
Yeah.
I'm a 12 right now. But it's been very sporadic. So last year I shot my best round ever. It was 75. But I ended up playing golf with Poyer when I had food poisoning the day after because I didn't want to screw anything he had up at his country club. I shot a 101. So you played in Nashville? You ever played Gaylord?
I haven't.
So we're playing there tomorrow morning. And last year when we went to the Bills game, I shot an 88. So it's like this is kind of like my first round in a while. So it's like I want to beat my 88, but I don't know what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like golf is, it's if you're not working towards it, you're not going to necessarily get better. I mean, there's some people who can just pick up a club and kind of just pick up where they left off, but you're not going to be sharp in every aspect without the grind.
No doubt. And it's the short game. It's scoring.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you might be hitting the ball well, but it's going to be tough to score if you haven't played in a while. And Buffalo makes it tough. And now they're getting some indoor spots up there. And
Yeah.
I actually just invested in a company out there called Encore Golf, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yeah.
And they got simulators there. And then you got the Buffalo Golf Club with the indoor facilities.
Yep.
So they're making waves to like allow people besides just going to the Whirly Golf Dome to hit balls in the wintertime. So they're making it. Golf is becoming cool.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to the guys recently from Eastside Golf. Have you seen their stuff?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, you got to check them out. So it's more of an urban golf brand, but these dudes are cool. We split a table together for the Drake concert out for the Super Bowl out in Phoenix, and those guys are awesome. And we were talking, and they're like, "No, golf is cool now. Like, golf gear is cool. Like NBA players, 3 NBA All-Stars showed up in Eastside Golf gear for the All-Star game. Like, when's that happen?
Yeah.
Like, we show up in golf gear.
Yeah.
And so athletes are embracing it. A lot of pro athletes are embracing golf. Like, it's becoming cool for NBA players, NFL players. It's always been cool for baseball players and hockey players to play golf because they've always been good at it. Now, NFL players and NBA players are picking it up. And golf's cool now.
Yeah. Was that so? Like, I don't know if you've seen, but the NFLPA had a tournament. What was it in the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Do they always do that, or is that just?
So when we would do our player rep meetings, when I was a player rep, we did them out in Hawaii, and so we would play.
The tournament was always a thing.
Yeah, and we would play, but it wasn't like publicized like it
Yeah.
is now. We just played. It was like a scramble, and I was actually playing with a few guys, and we just played our own ball and played a cash game amongst the 4 of us.
Yeah. It looked pretty like legit now.
Yeah.
Like trophies and all that stuff. That's
it's
pretty
amazing
cool.
how like they've improved stuff, and I don't want to be like an old head, like, oh, well, back in my day they did this, but like I was a 2-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. Nowadays, the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominees, they get to go to the Super Bowl, they go to NFL honors, they're honored on the field, they get to bring their wife out to the Super Bowl every year, hit the parties, and they're on for everything. You know what we got? A 4-minute interview on Good Morning Football. Like, that was what we got to kind of promote ourselves and all that. And that's fine. I refuse to be, a hater by any, like, I'm not hating on that. I was appreciative to be a nominee. I just would have loved to bring my wife out and get to go on the field for the Super Bowl and all that. Like, that would have been really cool. But similar to like college guys getting paid nowadays when we were broke in college, like I want them to get theirs. I want the Walter Payton Men of the Year now. Yeah. I want them to get theirs. There's very few things I'm jealous about, but I'm jealous that we didn't have the perks of that now.
All right, so now we're on a little segment that I added to the podcast when I have athletes on where I allow fans to ask questions. So our first question for Eric is from Mark David on Twitter. He wants to know, what is your most expensive and regrettable stupid purchase that you made getting in the NFL?
Honestly, I didn't make many, and I don't really know if I made any. If anything, when I got to the NFL, growing up as blue collar as I did, I don't think I understood how much money I had. I was so afraid of going broke that I think I almost went the other way and underspent. I'm trying to think if there's anything just really dumb that I bought. I mean, I drove a Tahoe. My wife drove a car that I got for free from a radio show in Buffalo. Like, I was pretty cheap. If anything, guys would make fun of me for being cheap as opposed to being frivolous.
Very humble.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I lived in an apartment up in Buffalo.
Next question, we're going on Facebook from Chris Neal. It says, recently you've seen so many linemen dropping weight after retirement, including yourself. How tough was that to maintain your weight while playing? Obviously, you feel better not taking hits every day, but specifically from a weight loss standpoint, do you feel a big improvement of your health?
I do. I used to sweat if it was 70 degrees in someone's house. I was uncomfortable. I mean, I put on 100 pounds in 2 years to get to 300 from my junior year of high school to my freshman year at U of L. So I put on the weight super fast. I was uncomfortable in my own skin to do the reverse on the commercial of being comfortable in your own skin. But I had to eat a ton to keep the weight on. The first 20 pounds came off really quick. The next 30 were diet and exercise. I wish I had like some special recipe. Everyone wants to know, like, how'd you do it? You probably say the same thing, Joe.
Yeah.
It's just consistent daily actions,
Yeah.
you know, eating less calories than you're burning. But that being said, I feel a lot better. I always say my joints are tested for 310 pounds, and now I'm about 250. So I feel pretty good running around. But yeah, it's funny because people will always say, man, all the O linemen lose the weight when they're done playing. I'm like, well, you should come to an alumni event because not all of them do.
Yeah.
But a lot of the ones you see on TV do.
Yeah. See, I also like, I think work ethic is so huge too because, like, you know, because I'm a personal trainer as well. So, like, you know, you can give people like all the tools they need, but you just know, like, especially you, because you're a very competitive person. I know that, like, the mentality sometimes is like, nobody's doing what I'm doing because nobody's working harder than me. Like,
Right.
that's why, like, these adjustments may look so easy to people because of my work ethic. Like, you know, I feel like you get in like a competitive mindset with yourself. Like, how can I like test myself?
Right.
And like that's where like the weight starts going because you want this. It's not like a chore.
Right. Yeah. And it's about making it a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just daily getting movement. Like everyone wants to know the specific workout. I'm like, you know what works as good as anything? Walking.
Yeah.
Walking, because then it doesn't crash you for the next day. So you're able to then rebound and work out again the next day. But if you go run 5 miles, you might not be able to work out for 3 days because your knees hurt so bad.
Yeah.
If you go blow it out at the gym for an hour, you might not be able to lift the next day. But if you got 30 minutes in, you could probably do 30 minutes the next day, the next day, the next day. And then in a long run, you never burnt yourself out. And now you've gotten to your goal.
The perfect blend of longevity and consistency.
Yep. 100%.
Not overdoing it because a lot of people just want this.
Yep.
You know, like, oh, I only lost 4 pounds. Just order a pizza. I'm done.
And then what I always tell people in losing weight, there's so many things that can affect that number on the scale. And it's often almost a hockey stick effect where you make consistent action and it's this slow loss. And then all of a sudden you have this big breakthrough. And I'm not talking about a big dump. You know, It's like this big breakthrough where now the scale is responding to all my hard work, but it might not come for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, so many people quit at 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right before they hit that hockey stick moment to where, wow, here comes the weight falling off.
I also feel visualization is huge too. Like a lot of people are so worried about the scale, but like if you can look in the mirror and be like, because myself, I was 335, and it's like looking at myself, like, okay, like I wanted to get down to 270, but like my body won't really allow me to. So like even now I'm like 298, and it's like I'm so much more happy with like what I look like now as opposed to like forcing myself to get to 270.
Yeah, because if you're lifting and you're not used to lifting and you're working out, then you're going to put on muscle, which is heavier than fat. So the scale might not say what you want it to say, but your body fat percentage is way more important than what the actual number on the scale says.
Next question comes from Mike Thurston on Facebook. He said, why not be a lineman coach in the NFL? You were a damn good center and your career got cut too short.
I appreciate that. I'm not saying I would never coach, but right now with a 5 and a 7-year-old, in the amount of hours that college and NFL coaches work, it just wouldn't fit our family dynamic and fit my own personal. My wife would say, go chase your dreams again. She would support it. For me to be the husband and dad I want to be, it's just way too many hours. And I say that out of respect. Those guys that work at One Bills Drive, those coaches around the NFL, they work so many hours. They're gone so much. There's so much sacrifice that goes into it. I'm not willing to make that sacrifice right now at this point in my career. I'm not saying never, but at this point, it would just be too much on me and my family.
Well, so that's going to wrap up that segment. So one thing before we do a little outro is, can you plug in your foundation where people can access your foundation and maybe donate and see what's going on in the community?
Yeah, so I have a website called ericwoodmedia.com. You can access my foundation from there. My podcast, What's Next with Eric Wood, the Centered on Buffalo podcast. And then on social media, I'm at ewood70 on Instagram and Twitter. Would love to hear from you. Give me some feedback on this episode and share this episode. People often will really enjoy an episode of podcast, but don't understand how much them just simply sharing it on social media can do for someone like yourself. Yeah. And I encourage those to do the same for mine as well. Mm-hmm. But when you enjoy an episode, hopefully you enjoyed this one, share this episode. It'll go a long way to helping Joe out. But I appreciate you, brother. And I appreciate you stopping by here on your way down to Nashville.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Like just to like the way that this all worked out from like everything that I was supposed to do that ended up falling through to just making this happen super last minute, let alone like driving here and sleeping in a car to make this happen this is so worth it, man. I appreciate everything, especially even like for the past couple of years. You've always been good to me, and we've always had a great relationship, and I'm glad we got to like make this a thing.
No doubt, brother. You're one talented dude. You've always been talented with your work behind the scenes, and I'm glad to see you in front of the camera now.
Yeah, it's new to me. It's funny because I even started a vlog, which I've never done. So I've vlogged my whole trip so far, and it's just like I'm walking around with a camera. I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it takes some
different.
getting used to. I feel the exact same way.
But ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode with the legendary Eric Wood. Thank you again so much for coming on. Hope you have super success with everything that you have going on in the future, and I can't wait to see you up in Buffalo pretty soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's play some golf. Let's have some fun, brother. Appreciate
I'm
you.
down. So like, subscribe.
Peace. I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off.